Thank you again for joining us this afternoon. Looking forward to going over the CSBG state plan with all of you and collecting some feedback from you on what we have put together. Again, I'm Alex Bercio with the Colorado Department of Local Affairs. We'll be going over the 2022 and 2023 CSBG state plan. Just a reminder to put yourself on mute unless you have a comment or a question. This will be recorded so that other eligible entities that weren't able to make it today can watch it later, and we'll be posting it to our grantee resources page. We don't have the full draft of the plan ready quite yet. It will probably be finished by the end of this week, and we'll have it posted, and we'll be sure to send it out to you. This presentation will go over the main primary section of the state plan that are really relevant to the CSBG eligible entities and really relevant to your organizations. Feel free to ask questions and provide input as we go along. This is a more informal session where we want to really collect your feedback and be able to hear from you about what we've put together. And then we'll be completing our public hearing requirements next week on the 4th. So again, if you have questions about what we're going through or comments or feedback, we really want to hear them and take them in. So jump in as we go along. And you can enter things into the chat, or I'll try to pause throughout the presentation to give you an opportunity to speak up if you have a question. Again, we probably won't need anywhere close to the full hour and a half. But we'll also give an opportunity at the very end for you to jump in if you have anything. Any questions or comments before we get started? Okay, and also I just wanted to note that the Colorado Community Action Association is on the call with us today. Josiah Massengale and Blake Duvall. As you know, we work really closely with them, and they've been a part of developing the state plan and have a key role in implementing it as well. So I'll give Josiah an opportunity to jump in if he has anything. If not, we will jump into the presentation. Okay, and it doesn't look like anything from Josiah and Blake, so I'll give them another opportunity, more opportunities later in the presentation of the state plan to add anything that I might have missed or to ask any clarifying questions. So we got kind of through the introduction. I'll go through what the state plan is, and what is in the state plan, what's not in the state plan. I'll go over then, the main sections and that are relevant to you as CSBG eligible entities and what we've included and what we're planning on. And then again, at the end, we'll have an opportunity for you to provide feedback and ask any questions that you have. But feel free to, as we're going along, there's a fair bit here, so don't feel like you need to save everything until the end if something comes up. So just an overview of what the state plan is. It's required by the CSBG Act, and we submit it. You can either have an annual state plan or a 2-year state plan that's submitted to OCS, the Office of Community Services, which is our federal partner that the funding comes through. And we submit it every 2 years through the online data collection system, which is OLDC. And that's where we submit our annual reports as well. And key sections of the state plan are linked to the annual report, and we're required to report on those throughout the years. The CSBG state plan, as you'll see, it really outlines our state office policies, goals, and our planned activities. And it does not include specific client services that you would provide or prescriptive strategies for our eligible entities to address poverty. There's a real emphasis at the federal level for allowing opportunities, and in the CSBG legislation, to allow local eligible entities to do assessments of their community needs and to develop strategies and services that reflect your communities and reflect the needs that your communities have. And so in our state plan, we're not going to be suggesting or recommending specific strategies or approaches for or requiring specific strategies and approaches for eligible entities to take. We do try to be able, provide training and technical assistance around, issues that are related to poverty and approaches that you could take, but none of these are prescribed or required, aside from what the CSBG legislation outlines. There are 15 sections of the state plan. Only, a couple of, or a good portion of them are relevant to you, but we'll be skipping over a couple of them and won't really go into them at all in depth, because they're just basic, box ticking or, information collection on administration or that kind of thing for OCS to collect. So section 1 goes over, administrative information. Section 2, state legislation and regulations. The sections that we're going to go into in depth are highlighted and bolded or bolded here. Section 3 is the state plan development and statewide goals. Section 4, the hearing requirements for the CSBG, in the development of the state plan and the hearing requirements before we can submit it. Section 5, we outline our CSBG eligible entities. Section 6 is for the organizational standards. Section 7 is the state use of funds and how we're going to be using the funds. Section 8 is state training and technical assistance, what we plan to provide over the 2 years. Section 9 is state linkages and communication, and that's both communication with other state entities, communication with our state association, and communication with the eligible entities, so that's you, our CSBG grantees, and then how we encourage and promote and provide you resources on communicating at the local level as well. Section 10 is on monitoring, corrective action, and fiscal controls. Section 11 is the eligible entity tripartite boards. Section 12 is individual and community level income eligibility requirements, and as you know, that's a key area of focus for our federal partners. It's one of the things that's outlined in the CSBG Act. Section 13 is Roma, and how we Sorry, but can everybody hear me now? I got bumped off on the phone.
Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks, Alex.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. And then section 14 and 15 are assurances and federal certifications that we have to fill out. So we'll get into what's in the 2022 and 2023 state plan. It will be submitted by September 1st, 2021. And again, it covers our state activities from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2023. And, we can submit a revision at any point during the 2 years the state plan covers. And if we were to do that, we would be reaching out to eligible, the CSBG network to know what we were doing to update the plan and collecting feedback on the updates that we were planning on making. So we'll get into the statewide goals, and this is probably the most relevant section for input that we'd like to collect from the eligible entities, and these are our main areas of focus for the next 2 years. And the first goal that we have is really evaluating programs, our program plans and policies, about implementing new policies and strategies, and making connections to ensure that CSBG programs serve all of our communities. And this is really around, looking at making our programs more equitable and available to all communities, regardless of race or ethnicity. And this is an area where we would like to continue to do research and to really understand how we can do this at our state office and how we can provide resources to you as eligible entities in order to do that. It's still something that we're looking into, and in the first year of the plan, we'll probably be developing our strategy around this, and then in the second year of the plan, we'll be looking at implementing those policies and seeing where we can implement program changes or make connections to be able to make our programs more equitable. The next goal in this section is streamlining and improving state processes, reporting requirements, and monitoring to minimize administrative burden and ensure grantee compliance. So here we'll be really making an effort to look at all of the state requirements that we have for US CSBG eligible entities and evaluating whether there's ways that we can reduce what we're requiring from you or combine things that we're requiring from you to make it easier for you to meet all of the CSBG requirements. There's quite a bit that is federally required and that we don't have flexibility in reducing, but we want to see where we can make combinations, of requirements and put things together to make sure that we're not collecting information from you twice, but also making sure that we're helping you to meet all the federal program requirements to really minimize the risk for us at the state and also for US CSBG eligible entities. One key piece that will be, one example of what we'll be looking at with this is the semi-annual program reports. Those are due in, end of July or August and then in February. So we collect primarily information around your tripartite boards with those reports. We're also collecting a lot of information on your tripartite boards during the organizational standards assessment. So looking if we can align our program schedule so that we are only having to collect that information from you and you're only having to put that together, 2 times per year instead of 3 times per year. So we'll continue to look at ways that we can align those processes and your reporting requirements, and also make sure that we're collecting the information from you that we need so that we can support you in meeting all the CSBG program requirements. We will also, whoops, I'm gonna jump back here. Also, in the next 2 years, at the end of 2023, I know it seems like we just completed your application and needs assessments, but we'll have a new program cycle starting in 2024. I think in the last program cycle, we saw a lot of improvement with the community needs assessments, and we want to continue to build on that in this next section. So in 2023, in the second year of this plan, we'll be working with you to develop your community needs assessments, make sure that we can provide you the resources that you need to develop a good community needs assessment and meet the organizational standards requirements and the CSBG Act requirements for those assessments. And so that will consist of webinars, and we'll probably improve on the template that we provided you in the past year. And then if we can again work with the state demography office to provide you data resources around that, we'll continue to do that as well. The final goal for 2022 and 2023 is to develop resources and provide training and technical assistance to increase compliance with the organizational standards. This is a real key area for CSBG, and one of those things that we're really not able to reduce the requirement around. But one of the things that we would like to do is to provide you resources to make this process as easy as possible. So we'll be looking at resources that we can provide, including proposed tripartite board agendas for throughout the year for you to meet those requirements, looking at best practices that we see throughout the network for agencies that have really found a way to meet all those standards. We've seen a little bit of slipping in our compliance with the org standards in the past couple of years, and we'd like to focus on that to make sure that we're meeting those standards as a network. I'm going to pause right here real quick to see if there's any questions or anything that Josiah or Blake would like to add around our statewide goals.
Hi, Alex. This is Blake, and definitely appreciate the thought you all put into reducing administrative burdens where possible, and really streamlining those processes. Appreciate you all really being thoughtful about being as useful as possible when collecting information.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. And just a comment, if anybody else has any comments about this, we'd love to hear this. I think one of the things that we want to make sure that we understand on our side is, what you're working on every day. What are the challenges that you run into in implementing this program? And are these statewide goals reflective of those challenges? Are they addressing those challenges? Are they going to be helping you manage the CSBG program? Again, in the state plan, there's not prescriptive strategies or around the services that we provide. And I think that's reflective of the fact that the work around poverty happens at the local level. And so our work is in providing you with resources and guidance providing you guidance to be able to meet those goals. So. All right, we'll keep moving through. Section 5 outlines the eligible entities that requires us to outline the eligible entities and the amount that we'll be allocating to each agency. Just a note, in this state plan, we will be informing OCS that there's been 2 voluntary relinquishments of CSBG funding for entities that serve Eagle County, Montrose County, San Miguel, and Ouray. We'll be working to identify a new eligible entity for those areas, and we hope to do that as soon as possible to make sure that the CSBG funds that are allocated for those counties really have an impact and can serve the residents of those areas. Section 6 is on the organizational standards. There are really no significant changes to our policies. We will continue providing, using an online system to collect your self-assessments and then verifying your compliance and completing a state assessment on what you've reported. Again, as we said in our statewide goals, we'll be putting together additional resources and providing training to improve compliance, and are willing to work with you one-on-one to provide assistance in meeting all of those standards. We're required to set some performance targets for eligible entities and meeting all of the standards. So 100% compliance, we report the number of entities that have met 100% of the eligible of the organizational standards. Year 1, we're projecting 35%, and in year 2, we will be working to have 40% of our eligible entities completing the standards. Section 7 outlines our state use of funds, and there's no significant changes to our policies for outlining the funds. We distribute these funds on a reimbursement basis. The formula for allocating the funds will remain constant throughout the 2 years. We don't have plans to do a formula update. And the formulaic allocation as required by the CSBG Act will be 90% of our allocation will be allocated, per our formula out to the eligible entities. 5% will be used for the administrative costs of the program, used for funds for our state office salaries and some of the other costs that are required to administer the program. And then 5% will be for the discretionary or remainder amounts. We have our multi-county service agency allocations, and these are funds that are allocated to entities that are serving multiple counties to help cover the administrative costs that are required to serve that larger service area. We'll also be using, as in previous years, funds to support training and technical assistance through the Colorado Community Action Association. We have a sizable grant that we award to them each year to cover their costs in providing training and technical support to you. And they're a really valuable and important partner for us. And so we will continue doing that going forward. We'll also have some funding set aside for innovative programs and activities by eligible entities. And then we have some other activities that funding that will be determined in the future. State training and technical assistance. We developed our priorities for this with information gathered through the T&TA survey that the Colorado Community Action Association sent out recently. And we appreciate your feedback through that. This section will also be supplemented by the CCAA and RPIC training and technical assistance plan. So they submit a separate plan outlining their training and technical assistance plans for the next year or 2 years. I can't remember exactly. Josiah could jump in, but obviously there will be overlap between our two plans. As far as training and technical assistance areas of focus, we will be focusing on board governance and tripartite boards. And of course, this aligns with the organizational standards. A lot of the organizational standards are related to board governance in your tripartite board. We'll be focusing on the organizational standards again as well, providing resources, TA, TNTA, to try to do as much as we can to make that easier for you to maintain compliance with all those standards. Focusing on the community needs assessments, fiscal management and accountability, and then ROMA. I'll go ahead and pause again right here for anybody to provide any feedback or to give an opportunity for Blake and Josiah to jump in here as well. Okay, don't see any comments or questions, so I will go ahead and keep on moving along through the presentation.
Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
Josiah did mention that it's a 1-year TNTA plan every year that aligns closely to our 2-year state plan.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Josiah.
Okay, the next section is state linkages and communication. And this will be an area of increased focus for us. We will put a greater emphasis both in the state plan and in our activities over the next year to really look at how we can coordinate with other entities, both at the state level and the local level. The pandemic really highlighted opportunities for us to communicate with other entities and other agencies and other programs. We know that you do a lot of this at the local level, and we want to better understand how we can support that and how we can improve connections at our level as well. We'll be looking at increasing and strengthening our partnership with the Division of Housing, which is, of course, within the Department of Local Affairs. We've already started that process, and we'd like to continue to develop that relationship and look at how we can make that partnership benefit you at the local level and the CSBG eligible entities as well. We know that housing is a really fundamental need across all Colorado communities, and looking at how we can leverage the proximity that we have to the Division of Housing to really have an impact on your programs. We'd like to provide resources, recommendations, and make connections for CSBG network eligible entities on the local level. And then one last thing is communicate our performance to you on the state accountability measures. This is not something that we've done in previous years, to my knowledge, but it is something that is required by the state plan, and we'll be providing more information on what those state accountability measures are, and we'll be providing those updates during our April quarterly calls. So stay tuned for that, and we will continue to report on those annually going forward. Section 10 is on monitoring, corrective action, and fiscal controls. This outlines the monitoring schedule for federal fiscal years 2022 and 2023. We're going to be looking at updating our monitoring policies and procedures in the Training and Technical Assistance Manual. We'll be collecting feedback from eligible entities as we, CSBG grantees as we go through that. We've been using Josiah's CCAA board to collect input from, and that's probably the main place that we will be, collecting feedback from as we update those policies. And we're also going to be receiving some assistance and support from an outside consulting company that will be reviewing our monitoring policies, specifically around fiscal monitoring. And so we'll be updating our monitoring policies to incorporate that guidance. Section 11 is on tripartite boards. There's really no significant changes in our policies around this. Section 12 is on individual and community level income eligibility requirements. And at this time, we don't have any significant changes that are being submitted with the state plan. It really reflects what's in the program implementation manual. However, we will be planning to update these policies in the next 2 years, and we will be emphasizing, as we look at these updates, we'll be really emphasizing making the policies more clear for you, decreasing barriers to services for clients, and at the same time, maintaining our compliance with the federal requirements. So we'll be contacting our national partners to make sure that we are maintaining that compliance, but also want to make sure that we are, wherever possible, minimizing those barriers for services, and also seeing where we can reduce the administrative burden on your side. Section 13 is on ROMA. Really no significant changes to ROMA policies or procedures, and we'll provide support and TNTA for the development of the community needs assessments as well, outlined in our goals and our training and technical assistance sections. But it's also a part of this section where they ask about the community needs assessments. So, okay, that is it for our presentation. So I'll give a quick opportunity for Josiah and Blake or anybody from the DOLA team to add anything that I've missed, and then we'll look forward to any comments or questions that you have. Okay, any questions or comments from CSBG grantees?
Hey, Alex.
Hey, good afternoon, Rand.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I want to thank you for taking the time today to share the plan with the eligible entities across the state. Want to also thank DOLA very much for continuing to support the CSBG program and the ability for local entities, for local governments, local COGs to be able to decide how to best use CSBG funds to meet the needs in their own community. That's a very much a distinctive of the CSBG program and of community action, and it's very much appreciated that that is being maintained in Colorado as we move forward. To that end, also want to provide feedback that it's very much appreciated the continued effort on DOLA's behalf to reduce the administrative burden. For many communities, this equals a small amount of funds, all things considered, but it's very impactful. And the more funding that can be used to directly impact residents versus the time it takes to administer those funds, anything we can do to keep that in sort of in line is very much appreciated. One piece on the TNTA, I know the Colorado Community Action Association has done a good job of trying to get feedback from us regarding what kind of training and technical assistance. And I know there's been a big emphasis on the community needs assessment. But I'm wondering if, and maybe Josiah can speak to this, or if there was any feedback that was provided regarding, I guess, the ongoing meeting of those needs, right? So the organizational standards and the CSBG Act says that not only are we supposed to meet the needs and create a strategic plan, but we're supposed to be able to report back on what's being done to accomplish that. And I feel like there's been a lot of emphasis, rightly so, on developing good, strong community needs assessments. But I guess the question is, what are we really doing to support the reporting of the outcomes, the changes, the meeting of those needs over time, as opposed to, I know in my community, we tend to kind of see the same things over and over again. So I guess that my question is sort of what's next after community needs assessment to make sure that needs are being met, more so than just getting beyond sort of the mandatory reporting that we have to do. That seems like the necessary four-letter words. So I guess if I could toss that one out, just I don't know if you've seen any feedback or if there's been any discussion on how we can improve and make more meaningful that side of what we do in community action in Colorado.
Yeah, I'll give Josiah an opportunity to jump in, and then I'll follow up on that. And appreciate your comment, Rand.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, and thanks, Rand. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for the input. Thanks for your comment, Rand. I think we definitely are really emphasizing, per usual, the performance management side, not just the reporting, but how do we better identify and prepare to track and collect data? How do we then really analyze that and then use it to make management decisions? Of course, every plan, we can't include everything. Certainly, performance management is high on the list. And really, when we looked at the org standards, so much performance management is littered throughout the org standards that we felt like, really highlighting the org standards also helped us to include performance management as well. So we are definitely going to be emphasizing it again. Before the pandemic hit, during the last 2-year state plan, we had planned to bring out local theory of change training, in-person trainings to communities that were interested. In fact, we even started one down in Pueblo, and we were really preparing to do that in our regional forums. And then, of course, we had to really pivot a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic. So I believe that we're going to continue to really emphasize that kind of thing. In our survey that we just did, we did see quite a bit of need around tracking outcomes and other data collection and management type of issues and topics. So it's definitely high on our radar. And, the state is continuing to support community-based data management projects as well, like what's been going on in Douglas County for several years, and which are going on in various other communities of Colorado. So that's definitely going to be a priority also. So a lot going on around performance management. And even though it's not really clearly teased out in the state plan, you're going to see it quite a bit in the state TNTA plan, which really then gets into those specific topics. And we'll look forward to further comments and input from you all on that as we develop that through the fall.
Thank you, Josiah.
Thanks, Rand.
Yeah, thanks, Rand. And I just had a couple of notes based on your comments as well. And one thing that OCS actually asked about, we had a state monitoring back in December of last year, and they specifically asked questions kind of around what you're talking about how they identify needs, how that connects to community action plans, and are we meeting all the needs that were identified in the community needs assessment. And I think Josiah has done a lot of work, and we really appreciate the work that he does each year with working with all of your entities to develop those activity spreadsheets where you outline the activities that you're going to be doing, the needs that you identified, and the outcomes that you're looking to achieve. And one of the things that I've learned as over the past few years in working in this role is seeing where the connections are between all of the different processes that we do. And I think one of the things that I would like, as I've gone on, I'm seeing those connections better and better, and want to do some work in how we can make those connections to really link the needs assessments to that work that you do each year in developing your activities and your plans, and then also the reporting and outcome, looking at outcomes at the end of the year to evaluate our performance on that, and looking at how the what's been the impact of the funding. So I hope that gets at your question, and we can maybe follow up if I missed that a little bit, what your point was, but appreciate your comment and feedback.
Thank you.
There was a question that came through on the chat about whether the allocation amount will be different. It will not be different than the previous year. The percentage we are projecting that we'll receive, or from what information we've received from our national partners, we are looking at probably flat funding next year. And over the past few years, we've come to expect that. And of course, nothing is official until the budget is passed at the federal level. But we're not, understanding that there will be reductions or anything like that in CSBG funding in the coming years. And I think the awarding of CARES Act funds to the CSBG network shows that there is bipartisan support, and there's belief in the network's ability to address poverty. And so I think we can expect to receive consistent funding going forward. And as far as changes to your allocation at the state level, that will not be changing over the next 2 years. So I hope that answered your questions. And then also there was a question about will there be less reporting in the future? Can't speak to exactly the reporting changes, but we will be looking at ways that we can combine reporting to make sure that we're collecting the information that we need, both on the program side and the fiscal side, but also making sure that we're able to maintain compliance with the CSBG Act. I know that, and the federal legislation and requirements. We want to minimize as much as possible, but we also understand that we need, we have a responsibility as a state office, and a responsibility to you as eligible entities to make sure that we're providing you with the resources and checking in on the areas that are really important compliance pieces. And that's a part of minimizing risk for you as the eligible entities and us as the state, to make sure that we're all in compliance. We have another comment from Audrey about whether the poverty line will return to the level that it was prior to the pandemic, which was 125% of the CSBG, or of the federal poverty line, or whether it will stay at this higher threshold. So it does sound like David Bradley, who is the lobbyist for the CSBG network, or the CSBG program, has said that he does believe that the income eligibility line will be increased permanently to 200%. However, it does go back to 125% on September 30 of this year. I don't know if legislation will be passed. It doesn't seem like legislation will be passed to increase that level to 200% permanently before that. So there may be a time where it goes back down to 125% before, hopefully, ideally, and it sounds like it will happen, go up to 200% permanently. Josiah, if you want to add anything to that, and I know that's probably confusing, but that's the situation that we have right now.
Yeah, Alex, that's my understanding as well. And I think based on that, we all have to plan right now for it to go back up, or I'm sorry, back down to 125%, and then be ready to pivot back to 200% if it does in fact get bumped back up through legislation in DC. And again, I can't read the future, but having that happen by September 29th of this year doesn't look likely to me. So I would, if I was in your shoes out there, I would plan on it going back down to 125%, but keeping all of the policies in place very handy for the 200% in case it does get increased.
Great. Yeah, and just one other thing that I forgot to include in the presentation on the state plan. We made an adjustment to how we're reporting the state plan that is consistent with what we've done in previous years. We create a maximum, or we have at the state level a maximum for the income eligibility line, but we do leave it up to eligible entities to set their own income eligibility lines as long as they don't exceed ours, which is basically the federal level. So when it's at 125% is the maximum that we set, which obviously matches the federal requirements. When it went up to 200%, we increased that, but local entities can still determine where they want to set that income eligibility line. And I know that for some programs, based on local availability of funding and local need, you may determine that you want to use a lower income eligibility line for those services. So there was also a question about whether that will apply to the CARES Act funding as well. Yes, it does, unfortunately. The legislation the CARES Act legislation that increased the 200% up to, or increased the eligibility line up to 200% said that it was for all activities in federal fiscal year 2020 and 2021. It didn't specify funding, that it was for CARES Act funds or anything like that. It just said activities that took place within those two federal fiscal years. And we're coming up to the end of federal fiscal year 2021. So it will go back down for the CARES Act funding as well. Any other comments or questions? Feel free to send them to me by email. You should all have my contact information. So if something does come up in the future, or once we have the full state plan posted, we'll be posting this presentation as well. And if you'd like to go through it and go through the full state plan or through this presentation and something comes up, we'd be happy to take in your input. Okay. A quick reminder, public hearing will take place on August 4 of next week. I believe it's 1 to 2:30 p.m. again. And if you haven't received the calendar invite for that, please let us know. We'd be happy to add you to it. And we look forward to any feedback that you have in that session as well. So unless there's anything else, I think we will go ahead and close out this call. Thank you again for your comments and for your participation, including in the TNTA survey that Josiah sent out, the past couple of weeks. And we'll look forward to the next 2 years working together with you and seeing how we can support you as eligible entities, and appreciate all the work that you do in serving your communities. So I think with that, we'll call it an afternoon. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to meeting with you again soon.